Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, we're wearing gloves for it. We're nerdy, and I'm a prop fan. I'm a prop collector. And we, I thought it would be kind of neat to talk about it while we're wearing gloves. I actually, I went to see the remake wearing this, a sweater, a hat, some tattered up brown pants, and a big, heavy, chunky pair of boots. It was actually kind of neat. Now, I wanted to talk about the remake because it's on a lot of people's minds, and I wanted to give you guys my views of it. And very simply, it wasn't that bad. I know a lot of diehard purists out there, ooh, I hate that movie because it's a remake and it's different. Well, it's kind of the reason to do a remake. Let's face it, if you made the movie exactly like the original, there's no point in remaking it, right? I mean, look at Psycho. They remade Psycho sometime in the 90s, and you know what? It was almost a shot-for-shot remake. Now, I can understand if, say, you consider the original to be so perfect that there's no reason to change the shots, there's no reason to change the settings and stuff like that, so you make it exactly like the original. At which point, what's the point of making it? However, change for the sake of change, just so you can say, yes, it is definitely different. Can't you tell? We changed everything about it. Then what's the point of making it? Because then it's not true to the source material, and you're actually doing it a disservice. So what's the fucking point? Nightmare on Elm Street was solidly not bad. I didn't actually find it to be that horrible. He didn't actually see it.
No, I'm not a big as fan as him.
We're doing original concepts for the story, the nightmares and stuff like that. This movie was the shit. They were awesome. I liked where certain elements of this character zigged instead of zagged. I liked where this Freddy, there's a scene, right, where somebody asks Freddy, "What do you want?" Well, the thing is, in the old days, if somebody asked Freddy what he wanted, he would, "I want you to die, bitch!" and he would have slashed him open and he would have laughed his head off. This Freddy actually answered, he's like, "Oh, gee, I don't know. Can you turn back time and can you give back the last 16 years or however long it was? Can you bring your dead back to life?" That was fucking awesome. I liked it. He was talking in all the right places, and he was also very angry.
So he was a good choice as an actor?
I think so. He had a lot to bring to the table. And the thing is if anyone's read the script, he didn't have a lot to work with. There really wasn't a lot. And what he was able to do with the script was really, really good. It was fantastic. I know a lot of people complained about the makeup. I didn't have as much of a problem with it. I kind of wish that they didn't go quite so realistic. There's actually an NECA Toys figure that came out just before the movie of that Freddy, and everyone keeps on looking at the pictures of the bland face where he's like, like in the trailer and stuff. There's also another face where when he's like snarling and angry and stuff like that, he reminds me a lot of the Part 2, Part 1 styled version of Freddy's makeup. Maybe not quite so exaggerated, because back then they exaggerated it because the film quality wasn't as good. I mean, obviously nowadays the remastering kind of makes it look better. But it really wasn't that bad. The thing is, I really feel that Jackie Haley Earl. I don't know. I really wish he would just call himself like first name, last name. This three name stuff is actually kind of killing me. I really think that he did bring something into it, but it might as well have been Robert Englund too. It really was one of those kind of things where Robert Englund could have just picked up and just played it.
Now, another thing is the jump scares. A lot of people were complaining that it was just too many jump scares in the movie. Like every second was like,
yeah, there were a lot of jump scares, and I have to admit to getting actually hit by a couple of them, and actually kind of almost like, oh, I'm actually surprised. Thank you. But yeah, after a while, you start expecting them. But sometimes I'm kind of wondering if they did that because they wanted a bunch of jump scares, and then they would stop after a little while and then start with the jump scares again to try to get you. The biggest problem I have with that is that it doesn't leave anything to the imagination. I don't know if maybe people don't have the same kind of suspension of disbelief or imagination that they used to have when I was going to see these movies in the theater. But I kind of wonder if they're just doing that because that's the big thing right now. I'm not sure. I do think it was too much. I think that with the jump scares, it is lazy writing. Because you can't come up with a more psychologically interesting way to scare people. I don't know about anyone else, but seeing scary imagery, seeing stuff on the screen, like, stuff jumping out of corners every month, that's not scaring. That's not a scary movie. That's a startling movie. They're going to startle you. It's the equivalent.
Like those freaking YouTube videos that I hate. You're watching, see into the distance, and all of a sudden this person jumps up and screams at you.
It's a cheap trick, and it's just about as cheap of a trick as CGI. CGI is a cheap trick, and if you rely too much on it, your movie just will wind up taking you out of that reality. Jump scares do the same thing. Some of them I liked. Some of them I legitimately liked. The first jump scare that you get, where you're seeing this low-angled, distant shot of one of the first characters that get killed, walking away from the camera. You see him far away, and then the glove comes down in front of the camera. It basically just does this. And it just comes down and goes, boop! And it's right in front of you, and he's doing this thing where he's like scraping the blades together. It was actually a pretty cool shot. I liked it. It established Freddy in the shot and really gave you some idea as to what's going on. But after a while, I really was getting tired of the jump scares. It is lazy writing. It's not like Nightmare on Elm Street series didn't have its fair share of jump scares. So honestly, I didn't think it was really that horrible of a thing. I just think that nowadays, with a lot of the psychological terror type writing, they really could have relied more on that.
So, I don't know. How would you rate the movie, actually? From a 1 to 10 system, or 1 to 5 stars? I don't know how you want to rate it, or even if you want to bother with rating.
It's kind of
hard. Is it worth going to the movie theaters to see, or is it a rental? It's
kind of hard to say, because there's still a lot more things that you have to talk about when you see these movies. See, the thing is, like I said earlier, I really liked this movie when they were trying to be original. Mm-hmm. There are certain scenes in the movie where they try to recreate a shot from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The whole hand coming out of the bathtub. Whoa! Back in the 80s, that was actually pretty freaking scary, because shortly after that, he pulled her underwater as if she was in some giant Olympic-sized swimming pool, and the little tiny hole for the bathtub is above her, and you get the light coming through, and Freddy's pulling her under and drowning her. That was relevant, and that was scary, In this movie, it actually got a fucking laugh when the glove went, slowly back under the water. People in the audience laughed.
That's not a good sign.
You don't want your audience to laugh at a scare, especially one that was so effectively used back in the 80s. And the worst part about it is that there was no Freddy pulling her underwater shot. They actually cut to later on. I guess she gets woken up, and like in the original film where Nancy's mom knocks on the door. And so the glove goes back under the water, and she does something, and she gets out, and she's, walking into her room, and it's full of snow. It's like snowing indoors and all over everything. I actually liked that. That was nice dream imagery. A lot more of a benign dream imagery, but I liked it because it steadily turned into a nightmare as the scene progressed. And for me, I thought it was good. The thing is, she confronts Freddy, and she wakes up back in the bathtub. Well, okay, then you could have just cut the glove coming out of the water out completely, and no one would have fucking noticed. It would have begun in the bathtub, having her get out, going into a dream, and she was still sleeping in the bathtub the whole time. You didn't even need it. It was a lousy jump scare. Actually, it wasn't even a jump scare at all, because we'd seen it, and you can see the blades coming out of the water. You already know it's coming in. Like, oh, that's shocking. It wasn't even an effective scare anymore. Everything else about that whole scene was fine, except for that was stupid. Just like in one of the scenes where Nancy or Chris or whatever character is sleeping, and they do a recreation of the wall in the original film, they used spandex. So everyone thinks it's latex. It's actually spandex, and they had Robert Englund push his face into it, and it was creepy. It was